If you're a content creator constantly editing videos, perhaps some music production, maybe graphics or photo editing, this might be a machine that you should consider. Hey, what up? It's your boy MobbJustice back again with another video. Now for today, it's something, a bit different. Haven't really done one of these specifically before. We have touched on products, but never a laptop, and especially never one quite like this. The team at Acer sent me the Predator Helios 500 laptop, and I had a chance to spend some time with it. And in this video, I'm just going to be giving some impressions, some observations, and then an overall thoughts just around what the machine is like. Just as a disclaimer, they did send the machine, and that machine, I had it for some time and then I sent it back. They have not paid for this review. Now I'm just gonna say it from the jump, this machine is a beast. If you're looking for a spec king, if you're looking for, graphics cards, processor, RAM, all of that, yeah, this machine is a beast. I'm gonna just list on the screen all the specs so that you can see what I'm talking about. Now, this experience with the Helios 500 actually comes at an interesting time because I'm actually in the market myself. So when Acer reached out and said that they could send through a machine, I was very intrigued, and I was definitely there because gaming laptops, particularly Windows gaming laptops, were on my radar. I've been using a MacBook, a late 2015 13-inch MacBook Pro for the last 4 or so years, and at the beginning it was a really powerful machine, but as time has worn on, you quickly run out of space. The RAM is not enough, and now with more and more 4K workflows, I knew that it's time that I upgrade my machine. At the same time, I run both Windows and Mac, and my Windows machine has not changed since 2010. It's one of those things that has stood by me for a really long time, and I thought, okay, fine, maybe I can switch part of my workflow to Windows, and then get a gaming laptop, because those are thought to be good for video editors. For those that don't know, myself and my partner Godfrey, we run a production business called Lion Media, and we are constantly churning out photos, videos, a lot of graphics, produce some of the content for a number of different YouTube channels that you may or may not have seen, including these videos. So a powerful editing machine was a must. In terms of this review, I'm going to be approaching it from the point of view of from a video production point of view and a video editing point of view. I think at this point it's just a good time to just highlight the fact that I am not a gamer. So I know that in the comments or wherever, people are going to be shouting, saying you had a Helios 500 and you didn't even try a game on it. No, I am not a gamer. For this to be authentic, I'm doing it in the way that I would use the machine. Now, starting off with my general impressions and maybe just looking at some of the quirks of the machine. Firstly, the Helios 500 is massive. It is a big machine. I think it's undoubtedly the biggest laptop I've personally held in my hands. It is quite heavy, and when it sits on the desk, it dwarfs anything else. I would include shots because I did put one of my old HP laptops on top of it as a size comparison, and then on top of that my MacBook Pro, just to show how colossal this machine is, and it sort of gives you that confidence that, okay, this is a powerful machine. Very easily you see a lot of vents you know, because there's a lot of cooling, you know, that's happening inside inside that chassis. And at the same time, it's a plastic build, you know, not the worst that I've seen, but it's not quite, you know, if you've come from, you know, the Apple life, or if you've ever touched like a razor blade or something, it's completely different. It's a plastic build, quite solid, but it is a plastic build, quite big. And then the one that I got was in a black finish. It had the blue logo on the top, and then some RGB lighting. I really like the RGB lights. They have 4 zones. They have something called Predator Sense, which is sort of a hub for these machines, and then you can control things like you know, overclocking, the fan speeds. You just, you know, just a hub to, you know, take care of the Predator part of the business. So that's where you can, you know, change the lightings. Keyboard, you know, not too bad. I primarily use an external keyboard and mouse, so it wasn't too much of an issue, but I just used it briefly, just to, you know, type 1 or 2 things. It's not the worst that I've used. At the same time, good key travel, so, you know, it does inspire that confidence. I would definitely say that it's a better typing experience than my previous laptop on the Windows side. The other one is the screen. It's a 4K panel. And just going online and looking at different machines, this is one of the few examples I could actually see or get that actually has a proper 4K panel on it. Outside of, you know, your Dell XPS, etc., this is a proper 4K panel, and, you know, it's a beautiful screen, though a bit saturated in the way that it reproduces colors, because like I said, I usually have 3 screens that are in front of me, and one of the most obvious, or one of the first things I noticed when I was starting to play videos, because I consume a lot of content, particularly on YouTube, was how saturated the temperature of the screen actually was. The next thing are the speakers. You know, they're okay. You know, they're laptop speakers, much louder than any of the previous laptops that I've owned, but they're okay. It's not, you're not going to get rid of any studio monitors that you might have, or any external speakers, you know, in favor of the speaker system that's there. But for what they do, you know, they're pretty good. And, you know, speaking of sound, when you actually switch on the machine, it does this very cool futuristic sound that it does. You know, it's like a Predator thing. That it does, and you sort of hear the sound because the speakers, you know, sort of fire from the bottoms and a little bit towards the sides, and if you're standing directly in front of it, you sort of get that full experience of the speakers. The one thing I did notice though on the speakers was the fact that when you plug in external speakers, they sort of have an echo to them. It was an equalizer issue, I'm sure, but they sound completely different to anything else that I've plugged my speakers into. You know, if you plug in earphones, it's the same as other machines, but specifically external speakers, I found that to be interesting. In terms of my observations, and then, you know, the video and creating side, I think we should just lead off by saying that there are 3 types of, you know, content creators or use case scenarios that are out there. First, if you're in the market for a laptop, you are getting a laptop that you want to have full portability with. You want to be having, you know, up to 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 hours of you know, screen on time. You want to be able to, you know, be out and about. Perhaps you go out onto a mountain, take a shoot and edit there. So that's more for the mobile video editor. The second type of editor is the one that actually takes their laptop out to, maybe you go on site or something like that, but you have ready access to plugging in power, right? So you can easily just sit down in a fixed place, plug in your laptop and work from there. So for example, you have a shoot on site, it's lasting for a couple of hours, or maybe you're doing a live stream at a certain event, and you just, you know, stationary setup. You go there, you set up, plug in. I think, you know, this machine is perfect for that. The third type of use case is one where you sort of take the desktop stance. And you know, for me personally, that's where I play, right? As much as it is a laptop, for me it's more of a desktop replacement, and it's more of trying to get a machine that is powerful enough that you don't have to get a desktop. So for me, it's not about portability in any way, it's about having, you know, good specs. So, you know, stationary setup, likely to have it at home, but it's always just nice to have the option to say that if I need to move this thing, I can easily just fold it, put the power adapter and the power cable, which, by the way, whilst we're here, the power adapter for that thing is also massive. But yeah, those are the three scenarios that you're gonna have, and that's how we're sort of going to be framing this review. In terms of observations, one of the first ones right off the bat is the fact that this is not a battery king, right? The battery, I personally did not take it off of power for that long because, as I said, I am primarily, you know, desktop based. I want my machine to stay in one place. But the one or two times that I did unplug it, sorry, just to see what it's like, you'd see that the meter was saying that it had less than an hour of battery, or just over an hour of battery. So that just speaks to the type of battery life you're gonna get. It's understandable when you think that when you consider the fact that you are running an i9, you're running a 4K screen, and at the same time you do have those giant fans that need to be running. And speaking of those giant fans, this laptop is loud. The fans just kick on randomly, you know, in the middle of the day. You can just be doing anything, whether it's intense, not intense. They just kick up and they are loud. In some cases, it's like a jet engine is taking over, especially if you know, sort of go hard in terms of video editing on the 4K side. They really kick up and they spin really, really loudly. The other ones are just, you know, interesting quirks that I noticed with the machine. So for example, where I am, you know, you set the laptop to automatically update the date and the time, and it had that setting, but throughout the time that I had the machine, it was always exactly 1 hour behind, which I found, you know, very interesting and a bit weird. Maybe I'm the one who's setting these things wrong, but, you know, one would think that with location services and all that, it can literally tell me what time it is right now in Johannesburg. The other one is the fact that, as I said, the fans very loud. They just kick on and off randomly. I'm used to machines where they're very loud, but they're loud because you're doing something intense, such as exporting a video or rendering a video, something like that. That's when I'm used to hearing fans kicking on. But this machine just, you know, on its own can just, you know, kick on those machines. I'm guessing it's just, you know, how powerful the system is, and that every once in a while just has to cool things down. The other one was the camera, right? Anyone who's ever come, you know, to any of my setups, offices, etc., I always keep, you know, I'm old school, right? The Helios 500 doesn't have one of those nice little door things over the camera, so I'm one of those old schools. I put a physical paper on top of the camera just to make sure that I know that it's not on. But every once in a while you'd see a notification in the left that would say camera on or camera off, and I just wondered what that was about, because I personally hadn't installed any of those apps that typically need a camera, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Skype, or, you know, something like that. So I found that a bit weird, a bit concerning, but I found that interesting. Now, one of the things that as a content creator you tend to do a lot of is to transfer files. You know, video files can tend to be quite big, and transferring the files of an entire shoot can take a bit of time. So I decided to do some tests just to see what it's like and what it's about. I specifically used an SSD because SSDs tend to have very high read and write speeds as compared to normal spinning hard disks. So I took my SSD and I transferred about 5.6 gigabytes from the computer onto an SSD, because the Helios 500, if I remember correctly, has a hybrid system where it has an SSD on the boot up side, and then some of the long-term storage is HDD. So I copied the files from the computer itself onto an SSD, and the average transfer speed was ranging from 20 to 40 megabytes per second, and then in some cases getting as low as 12.5 megabytes per second. And that process took around 3 minutes to transfer that 5.6 gigabytes. But what was interesting is that in reverse, where I transferred from the SSD onto the computer, it took about half the amount of time, about 1.5 minutes, and the average speed there was about 38.5 megabytes. But interestingly, at some point during the transfer, it spiked to about 130, 150 for about 10 seconds, and then it just dropped back down to that average speed and settled there. So that was an interesting test, to see the read and write speeds of the machine. As a video editor, one of the things that I really appreciated about going through this process with the Helios 500, this is not about the machine itself, but the fact that moving between machines when you have a particular workflow can be tough, because I have sets of fonts and assets, all of these attributes that are actually installed on my MacBook. So to use Adobe Premiere Pro on the Helios 500, for me to do some of the tests or to compare certain things, I had to go and install all of those things. So it sort of reminded me just how much stuff is sort of tied to a particular workflow. And I think going forward, I'll be looking for ways. I'm keen for suggestions. Even if you would like to suggest ways that I can maybe make these things a bit more optimal, so that I can easily work between more than one machine at the same time. So in terms of the actual video editing, my primary editing suite is Adobe Premiere Pro. I do use Final Cut every once in a while, but most of the videos that I produce, that you're seeing right now, this video, are coming out of Adobe Premiere Pro. Yes, the render times are slower, we've heard all of these things, but I really like the Adobe suite, and I like the fact that you have a lot of granular control just over the workflow and how it does things, and the fact that Adobe is something that can work on a Mac, and it's something that can work on a Windows. It's not something that's closed off. So I really like that aspect of it, and its integration in the rest of the other Adobe apps. So that's what I used, and just a couple of tests just to see what it was like. 4K, that's what I'm trying to move to, because my MacBook has really been tough in the last couple of years in terms of trying to do 4K editing. It's almost impossible trying to get smooth playback, a lot of dropped frames, and in some cases it just can't, and you do have Adobe Premiere just shutting down or glitching. So those are all the reasons why I actually want to upgrade my workflow to something new. And I can definitely say that the Helios 500 is a beast when it comes to Adobe Premiere Pro. Around the 4K timeline was smooth, it just ran like butter. I'll actually show what it was like, just smooth 4K footage. It was going there. What I did find interesting is that when you are playing back 4K footage in Adobe Premiere Pro, the usage of the CPU spikes. because you're dealing with the system with so much RAM and that powerful i9 that most of the time in normal usage it was running around 25, maybe 35%. But when you start playing back 4K footage in Adobe Premiere Pro, it shoots up above that 80-90% utility range. So that was interesting, but it was able to keep up and there were no dropped frames. The other test that I did is that as a video creator, we tend to use a lot of multicam work, and multicam is basically, for those that don't know, is where you have you shoot the same thing from multiple angles, you sync all the clips together, and then you get that cool effect where you can then choose your multiple angles at the same time. Adobe Premiere has a nice feature where it allows you to just pick, and on my MacBook it's so horrible. Even at 1080p, all I can do is to have smooth playback, a smooth playback on 2 clips at 1080, and then anything above that it just starts dropping frames. So I was very impressed when the Helios 500 was able to do multiple, I think I even got to 15 4K streams running at the same time. None of them, it didn't even break a sweat, it just continued going. And then on top of all that, you also have, pretty good render times. I'll actually display on the screen. I exported about a 3 or so minute 4K file, and see how long that took. I think it was roughly 2 to 3 minutes. It wasn't too bad, and you can just imagine that for my normal workflow, it means it would have the videos that I normally produce, it would have just done it so much faster. So that would have been an advantage. The thing that I found the most interesting in Adobe Premiere is the fact that there's smooth playback for a lot of things, and I added color, and it continued just flying. Added color. Even when you add color to the multicam, right, you have maybe 12 streams of 4K all playing at the same time, and you've applied color adjustments to it, it just runs. But the moment you put some text, a text or a banner on it, you just start seeing the stuttering. That's where the dropped frames happened, and that was actually quite interesting. But for the most part, very smooth on the 4K side. The one little caveat I will and do have for video creators is those fans that I've mentioned a number of times through this video. Those fans are really loud, and they do kick in, and you do hear them. And as a video creator, sometimes if you are shooting in the same room that you edit in, then you'd rather put the machine to sleep, because those fans might kick up, and if they do, they're going to be picked up by your microphone, whether you're using a boom, whether you're using a lapel, something. If the mic is powerful, it will likely pick that up. But I think it's more important for those video creators that do voiceovers, right? You sit there, and then as the video's going, you just talk over it. Some people do a direct recording into the piece of software, some do an external, it just depends. But what you cannot do is to record that voiceover next to the machine, anywhere close to the machine, because your mic is going to pick up those fans. That's the one, I think, maybe annoyance I had with the machine, because in addition to creating videos, I am also a podcaster and a broadcaster, right? Because I am on radio and I host a podcast, so I do a lot of recording at my desk. And having that machine on when I was trying to do those recordings at the time was very hard, because those are very loud fans. In the past, I was used to it because my old Windows machine plus the MacBook, at times the fans do kick on. They can be a bit loud. The Windows machine, just switch it off, let it go. But in terms of the Helios, that was quite an annoyance. So it's just one of those caveats to say it's a very powerful machine, but it's a powerful machine that needs to be cooled, and as a result, it's got these fans that need to run periodically, every once in a while, to keep everything together. But as a video creator, that then disrupts the process the creative process, because that might create disruption or distraction or background noise for you if you're recording. So that's one of those caveats. If you're going to get this machine and you're a content creator, you just need to make sure that if you're recording audio, that you're not close to the machines or close enough to the machines that your microphone system will be able to pick up that sound or that disturbance. On the whole, a very powerful machine, and I think if you have the money, this is one of those machines you do well to invest in. Just those caveats that I spoke about earlier on. Firstly, very loud fans. If you are recording audio or anything like that around the machine, it's going to be a disturbance. And then the other one is that battery life. If you're looking for a fully portable sort of setup, this is not the machine for you. But if you're looking for something that's going to be stationary and in one place, definitely a good option. So it depends on what your use case is gonna be. At the same time, at the price, it's likely that you're going to have a much more affordable, entry into a machine like this, as opposed to having a similarly spec'd machine on the Apple or the Mac side. And then on top of all of that is the fact that because it is a gaming laptop with such a big chassis, there is that level of upgradability, where you can go in and upgrade your RAM, and then you can maybe even your SSDs, or actually add one, which is something that Mac users, unfortunately, it's just not a thing. So that's it on my end. Thank you to Acer for sending through the machine, and I think in future I am likely going to be reviewing another one of their machines, just to see what the difference is, because your Helios 500 is more on the top end, trying to see what's happening in the other tiers, and what they're doing more in the i7 space. So that's it for this video. Thank you to everyone who was watching, and thank you to the team at Acer for sending through the Helios 500 for me to check out. Definitely an experience. That i9, very powerful. And then at the same time, if you have a Helios, so what has your experience been? Has it been different? Has it been worse? Has it been better? Let us know. At the same time, what are some other options of a gaming laptop or gaming laptops, or other types of laptops that have good graphics capability that you would recommend that people actually buy? Let us know in the comments. Let us engage. Let us have this conversation, because I think it's a very important one to have, because you do have different tiers of laptops, and for the price that you're getting gaming machines at as a video creator, it's definitely something that one should be considering. So that's been it. I will catch you guys in the next video.
Hey, this is Baby G, and you're watching the MobbJustice channel. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Live it, love it, like it. This is the MobbJustice TV.